Under-shepherds are very, very important people in the life of this church. Under-shepherds are next to pastors in the pastoral role of this church, in the leadership of this church. And the role of under-shepherds will grow more and more important as the church grows. Because no one person can know everybody. But a whole heap of us can know everybody. And if we know everybody, and if somebody that you're talking to is feeling a little distressed or disturbed or not going well, you don't have to carry the burden all by yourself. You just talk to your pastor. We're going to divide the church, the geographical church, up into 3 areas. And a pastor will be over each area. Ron and Robin will be over an area. Darryl will be over an area. And Peter will be over an area. And under-shepherds will be in those areas, and the pastor you'll have reference to him. We'll let you know all about that. I'll write your letter within a week or so. But your work is so important, because to keep this church as a family means we have to know each other, so it doesn't get impersonal. And if you're in a small church of, say, 100 people, you most likely would have 7 or 8 people that you're close to. If you're in a church of, well, there's about 1,000 of us here that would call this church their home. That's not all in one meeting, but over the different meetings. Maybe even a bit more than 1,000. And if you know 20 people very well, it still is a small church. You just know more than you would in a small church. So we want to keep that flavour of a small church while we grow. The role of the under-shepherds will be extremely important in that regard, because it's you folks that are on the ground. You know the people. You'll know the people allotted to your care. And I couldn't emphasise too much the importance of your work. I like to think that here we work on the principle of servant-hearted leadership. Jesus said, "He who be greatest among you, let him be the servant of all." And that's the principle that we want. No big bosses here. It's just, we're just here to serve one another. So if we aspire to greatness in the church, we aspire to serving people. And that makes us great. The fellow or the woman who's a big shot in their own head is really a very little shot. It's that we fulfill our role, our destiny, that we serve people. Church is all about people. You and me. Just people. New people coming in. And you'll get names of people coming in into your area, and the number of under-shepherds will grow as the church grows. We'd love you to phone them up and say hi. And you say, "Well, I'm from Worship Centre. My name's John Diamond. And I'm an under-shepherd at Worship Centre, and I just want to welcome you and just tell you how great it is that you came to church, that you might be becoming part of this family," or something like that. You create dialogue. If any of you say, "Well, I find it really hard to talk on the phone." When I first started as a Methodist minister, visitation, as we call it, was a great thing. And I visited people. Any time that I wasn't doing anything else, I visited people. And it caused the church to grow as a result. But I was very shy. I felt very inferior. I didn't feel like a minister. I didn't feel like anything except a bloke from the bush that was out of place in the city in those days. And I had to learn how to make conversation with people that I didn't know. They were a Methodist because their name was on the roll. They hadn't been to church for a few years, but their name was on the roll. So I visited them and I talked to them. And I ended up leading lots of them to Christ in their home. And I found out by an odd way that somebody said, "We were very frightened of you," because word went around amongst everybody, he's going to ask you how you get on with God. Stuff like that. Which of course I did. It was my job. And I was there to help them get on with God if they weren't getting on with God. And then I asked them, were they born again? A lot of them never heard of it, so they didn't know what it was. And so I'd lead them to Christ oftentimes at their home, and they'd put a fear around in that church about me, but they got to know me, and I visited them all. But I learned to ask questions. Oh, how long have you lived in this area? Good question. You're creating dialogue. You're breaking down the first few minutes of embarrassment. Oh, what sort of work do you do? And are your family living in this area? You can ask just questions, just to help them. They're easy. They can answer those questions easily. And you don't have to start talking about the deep things of God straight off. Then you just say, like, I'd love to meet you and get to know you, because the church has given me your name, and I'm an under-shepherd in this area. So I work with the pastors, and we just love to get to know you. Perhaps sometimes if you feel like you're getting on well, you might meet for coffee. Or if it's the same gender as you are, you might invite them round to your house for a feed or something. When you get 10 or 11 or whatever it is that you get to care for, you might like to invite them all round. Now they most likely won't all be able to come, but 6 or 7 might come. And then you all get to know each other. And you build interrelated friendships within the church. It's doing things like that that create fellowship, friendships, integrate people. If people make friends, then they feel at home. If people don't make friends, then they feel like I'm just a loose brick. Take a lot to get a board off that wall. But if that board was just laying out in a stack out there, so anybody could pinch it. But it's fastened into that wall. And we're joined into people when we're knitted together. My shirt is made of fabric, but it's woven together. I couldn't tear this shirt because it's woven well. But if it was just the strands of cotton, I could break them easily. If there's just a lone sheep, Satan can pick them off. But if all together, if all of us work to integrate people in the church, to serve people, to love people, to look after people, to help people. Does it mean you're a doormat? No, that's not servanthood. You don't have to be a doormat, but you sure do have to be a servant at heart and just have a compassion for people. So you'll end up praying for people, you'll do everything. You'll just have a lot of fun. You'll grow in yourself enormously. Because if you want to grow, just step out a little bit past where you're comfortable. And then you grow. If you always stay where you're comfortable, you don't grow very much. And I think all of you are people's people, because that's why you're chosen and asked to come here. Because we believe that you're good people. You're people of integrity. You're people's people. You care about people. So I really do want to just say to you, thank you for coming. And I hope we all get to know each other as leadership in the church. And I really appreciate you. And your pastor that will be over your area definitely appreciates you very much. And you and the pastor will work together to shepherd your area so that people aren't lost through the cracks. And to those of you watching this by video, we just want to thank you for being under shepherds, and you're part of this whole meeting tonight. Yes.